I was halfway through cleaning up a backlog of vendor invoices when the email hit. Subject line, confidential, do not share. Problem was, it was shared with the entire ops team. Kyle from HR had fat-fingered the recipient list and blasted out a spreadsheet that was obviously never meant for our eyes. I clicked it out of habit, expecting a quick follow-up message recalling it. Didn't happen. Instead, I sat there, cold coffee in my hand, staring at line after line of salary data, names I knew, people I'd trained, people who still came to me with questions like, I was some damn Wikipedia page for finance ops. Mason Reeves, 2 years in, $143,000. Trent Adler, 8 months, $139,000. Vanessa Lynn, maybe 13 months on the job. $140,500. Me, 11 years. $102,900. I blinked a few times like maybe I'd read it wrong. Then I looked up. Mason was across the room, feet kicked up on his desk, laughing his ass off at some YouTube video. This was the same guy who asked me last week what a deferred asset was. I had to explain it to him using a whiteboard and 4 bullet points. And he was making over $40,000 more than me. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I didn't rage or make a scene. I saved the spreadsheet to my flash drive, closed everything else, and walked straight to Ray's office. Didn't knock, didn't message, just walked in and dropped my laptop right in front of him. I need to understand this. Ray looked like I'd slapped him in the face. He blinked, glanced at the screen, tried to act surprised. Didn't sell it. Jason, he started, then launched into the usual corporate garbage. Different market conditions. New hiring brackets. Policy caps. He even threw in, you know how it is. No apology. No explanation. Just excuses. Then came the real kicker. Take it or leave it. I didn't say anything back. Just nodded once and walked out. Calm. Focused. That night, I didn't drink, didn't vent, didn't text my buddy Gavin or pace around the apartment. I opened my laptop, cracked my knuckles, and started building a new spreadsheet. But this one wasn't for work. This one was for war. I worked through the night, didn't eat, didn't even stand up except to refill my coffee. The spreadsheet grew by the hour, not some half-assed brag sheet either. I built a full operational analysis year by year, showing exactly what I did, what I created, and how much money I saved this company without ever asking for anything. Each year had its own tab. 2013, junior accountant, entry level. Built the first version of our automated reconciliation tool from scratch. The tool they still use, by the way. 2014, flagged a vendor double invoicing scheme that would have cost us over $600,000 if I hadn't been paying attention. No bonus. Not even a thank you email. 2015 to 2020, system overhauls, process documentation, clean audits, team transitions, turnover nightmares. Every time someone quit, I picked up the slack. I trained the new kid, smiled through it, and kept the lights on. 2021, handled a 6-figure reconciliation project solo during a system migration that upper management swore would need a team of 4. Got it done under budget. Ahead of deadline. 2022, stopped an error in our forecasting model that would have caused a supply chain overbuy of over $900,000 in dead inventory. Caught it with a red pen and a spreadsheet. No shortfalls, no write-ups, no missed deadlines. 11 years of clean record, and what did I get? 3% annual raises while kids I trained blew past me in 8 months. By 4 a.m., I had it. The hidden cost of loyalty, a financial and operational impact analysis. 51 pages, every claim backed by documentation. Final page, a clean $312,875 saved just in the last 12 months from workflows I built and managed by myself. My salary gap for that same period, $39,100. I printed the whole thing, got it bound at the 24-hour FedEx downtown. Title page in bold, my name right underneath it. Before 6 a.m., I was back home, in the shower, steam fogging up the mirror. I shaved. dressed in the charcoal suit with the blue pinstripe, same one I wore to my dad's funeral, not because I was sad. I wore it because it reminded me who I am when I stopped making excuses for people. At 7:20 on the dot, I walked into the building like it was any other Tuesday, took the elevator up to the executive floor, ignored the receptionist, and went straight to the CEO's office. Garrett wasn't in yet. Didn't matter. I dropped 3 things on his desk. My resignation letter, signed and dated. A formal job offer from Halston Advisory Group, $150,000 base plus full benefits. And the report. Didn't leave a sticky note. Didn't wait around. I walked back to my desk, sat down, and started going through my emails like nothing had happened. 2 seats down, Mason was arguing with his monitor about some formula not working. Same formula I built. Trent was pacing around on a call trying to sound important. Vanessa had her AirPods in, clicking around in some template I'd written 6 months ago. I didn't say a word to any of them, just kept working. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I was there to prove a point. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, the point was already made. At exactly 10:04 a.m., I got the ping. Jason, Elm Room, now the Elm Room. One of those dumb tree-name conference rooms they thought made the office feel warm. Felt more like a coffin today. I stood up, grabbed my notebook like I was heading into a project sync, and walked in without knocking. Inside, Garrett, sitting at the head of the table, Ray 2 seats down. Kyle from HR had his laptop open but wasn't typing, and Marissa, our COO, arms crossed, face unreadable. In front of them, my report. Opened halfway, pages already dog-eared. Garrett looked up and gestured toward the empty chair across from him. I stayed standing. He cleared his throat. Your analysis is extensive, I nodded once. So is my tenure. That shut him up fast. I could already see Kyle sweating. His fingers started twitching, like he wanted to jump in and fix everything with a few polite buzzwords. I think this might be a case of outdated HR records and some context missing from the... Don't, I cut in. I'm not asking for anything. I've already made my decision. Ray perked up then, probably thinking he could slide in and smooth it over. He leaned forward, fake concern all over his face. Jason, you've always been solid. But you know how raises work. 3% annual is standard. You got your 3% last year. Ray leaned back, lips tightening. Garrett sighed and folded his hands. Let me ask you this. What would it take for you to stay? I didn't hesitate. Salary match at $150,000. Back pay for the last fiscal year. Call it a bonus. And a formal internal pay equity review. Kyle actually gasped, like I'd asked for the building. Marissa didn't say anything, just kept staring at me like she was trying to calculate ROI on the fly. Garrett scratched his jaw. You're asking for a lot. No, I said. I'm asking for what I'm worth, and what I've already earned. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Finally, Garrett leaned forward and rested his elbows on the table. We'll need 24 hours. I shook my head. You've got until tomorrow morning. That resignation clock's ticking. I'm not bluffing. Kyle started to say something else, but Garrett waved him off. You'll hear from us soon, Garrett said. I nodded once and walked out without another word. Went back to my desk like nothing happened. Sat down. Opened up the month-end close schedule. Checked off the first 3 items. Logged a bug in the reporting tool. Forwarded a vendor query to AP. They were probably in there scrambling, whispering, wondering how I knew what I knew. Wondering how they'd missed it all these years. But me? I had already moved on. They didn't wait 24 hours. At 1:23 p.m., 3 hours after I walked out of the Elm Room, Ray showed up at my desk looking pale. Conference room maple, he mumbled, like he already regretted whatever was coming. This time, they brought reinforcements. Fred something, company counsel, was already seated when I walked in. Blue suit, shiny watch, big smile that didn't touch his eyes. Garrett and Marissa sat across from him, shoulders tight. Kyle was gone, thank God. Fred stood like we were old friends. Jason, glad you could join us. I didn't shake his hand, just sat down and waited. Garrett cleared his throat. We took your concerns seriously, he said, sliding a folder across the table. This is our revised offer. I opened it. Title: Director of Financial Strategy Base Salary. $155,000 bonus structure, $45,000 performance-based access, executive meetings, strategic initiatives, internal audit committee. It was everything I'd asked for, and more. Almost too much. Then Fred pulled another folder out of his briefcase and set it in front of me like it was nothing. "This is just a standard update to your confidentiality agreement," he said, "given your new position." I flipped it open. There it was in black and white. Clauses specifically about compensation structures and unusual financial activity. No casual language. This was targeted, precise, buried on page 6. "You're making this conditional," I said, not looking up. "Not at all," Fred said smoothly. "Just routine housekeeping." Marissa watched me closely, arms folded. Garrett kept adjusting his cufflink like it was going to save him. I closed the folder. "I'll need time to review this." Fred nodded. "Of course. Just let us know." By morning I stood up, took both folders, and left, without saying another word. Soon as I got back to my desk, I sent the text to Gavin. They bit. NDA included, proceeding. His reply came almost instantly. "Perfect. Keep control." They thought they had me locked in. They had no idea. For the last year and a half, I'd been tracking vendor payments that didn't add up. Not mistakes, patterns, fake company names, rounding errors that always leaned one direction, P.O. boxes with no physical address, transfers signed off by the same two people every time. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Or, if they did, they'd look the other way. But I didn't. I cataloged everything. Times, dates, signatures, approval chains, even internal emails from managers pushing payments through with weak justifications. I never confronted anyone directly, just kept logging it, and now they were handing me an NDA, right after offering the big promotion. Like I wouldn't notice the timing. They didn't know I already had the real leverage. This wasn't just about pay anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. They thought I was trying to climb the ladder. I was actually building the trap. Day 15. Technically past my resignation date. But they asked me to attend one last meeting to wrap things up. They asked for one final sit-down to close the loop. That's what Kyle called it in the email. Like we were buttoning up some happy little HR package with a bow on top. What they didn't realize was that the bow was a noose. And I'd already tied the knot. Conference room cedar this time. Bigger than the Elm Room. More chairs, more glass. Same anxious tension. Garrett was already there, trying to look casual in his stupid Patagonia vest over a collared shirt. Fred was seated next to him, quiet, flipping through a legal pad like he was prepping for trial. Marissa stood near the window, arms crossed. She looked tired. There was a screen set up at the end of the table, and a few seconds after I walked in, the video call connected. Amara Fulton, chair of the board. Her face filled the screen, no smile, no greeting, just straight to business. "Let's begin," she said. Garrett stood and tried a smooth, friendly tone. "Thanks for your patience, Jason. I cut him off, dropped a slim black folder on the table in front of them. "Before we finalize anything," I said, "there's one more matter. You've got a $2.7 million embezzlement issue." You could hear the oxygen leave the room. Garrett froze, mid-step. Fred's pen slipped from his hand. I opened the folder and laid out the first page, a transaction map going back 18 months, all flagged payments, fake vendors, P.O. boxes linked to addresses with no physical offices, amounts growing slowly, quarter by quarter, staying just under internal audit thresholds. Flip the page. This is a list of vendor numbers created manually outside the procurement system. Next page. This is where it all leads. A holding company, Pine Grove Partners. Fred stiffened. "I've never heard of that company." "Funny," I said, sliding the next sheet forward, "because it's registered to your brother-in-law. Right here, public filing, state of Delaware." Fred opened his mouth again. "Hold on," I said, flipping to the last page. "This one's my favorite. Your initials, Fred, authorizing quarterly budget adjustments to accounts payable that match the Pine Grove Trail to the dollar. 3 different times." He slammed his folder shut. "This is a baseless accusation." "It's data," I said, "not an accusation." Marissa didn't say anything. She just stared at Fred like she was watching a bridge collapse in slow motion. Amara's voice came through the screen, sharp and low. "We'll be bringing in external auditors immediately. Fred, do not leave the building. Stay where security can find you." Fred stood up anyway. Garrett finally moved, stepping toward him like he could get ahead of it, fix it somehow. "Fred," he said, voice cracking, "don't—" But Fred didn't stop. He just stormed toward the door. 2 security guys were already outside. They stepped in, flanking him fast. "I know my rights," Fred barked. "You people don't know what you're doing." One of the guards gestured calmly. "Let's take this to the legal team." They let him out. Nobody said a word for a full 10 seconds. Then Amara spoke. "Jason, please forward everything you have to the board's audit committee today, including all supporting documentation already queued," I said. "You'll have it within the hour." Garrett looked like he'd been shot in the gut. He sat down slowly, eyes on the empty chair Fred left behind. This wasn't a meeting anymore. It was cleanup. By the time I got back to my desk, the building felt different. Quiet in a way that wasn't normal. Like everyone had heard the explosion, but no one wanted to admit it. Fred was gone by morning, fired, walked out with security and a box of files they probably never even let him keep. 2 mid-level accounting staff, Amanda and Josh, got suspended pending investigation. I didn't know if they were in on it or just too dumb to notice. Didn't really matter. Garrett, total meltdown. Public apology in the Monday exec call, voice shaking while he talked about integrity and restoring trust. It was pathetic. Ray, full name Daniel Raymond Gray, turns out he preferred using his middle name for some reason. Maybe thought it made him sound more important. He was found negligent, not involved, just asleep at the wheel. He kept his job, but they stripped him of his title and moved him into a technical role. No reports, no influence. He now sits in the back room with the same people he used to delegate everything to. They left my badge active, probably on purpose, just in case I change my mind. 2 days before my start date at Halston, I got the call. Garrett's cell number, no assistant. "Jason," he said, trying to sound relaxed. "I know things ended abruptly, but our team's struggling with some of your systems. We'd like to bring you on as a consultant." I didn't even flinch. "There's a 60-day knowledge transfer binder in the shared drive. I left it there the day I gave notice." He went quiet. Then he sighed. "We didn't open that." "Name your price," he said. "Whatever's reasonable. We just need help getting through the transition." I didn't yell, didn't vent, just gave him the truth. My price was 11 years of fair treatment. Then I hung up. No goodbye. Let him sit with it. First day at Halston, I walked through the front doors at 8:02 a.m., sharp. The glass-paneled office at the end of the hall had my name already on the door. Jason H. Keller, Chief Financial Officer. Inside, clean desk, new laptop, fresh notepad. A view of downtown Atlanta that actually made the traffic seem worth it. Gavin met me in the hallway with a coffee and a grin. "Ready to build something better?" "Been ready," I said. We didn't waste time. Within 6 months, we'd poached 3 of the firm's biggest clients, the ones I used to manage from the shadows while someone else took the credit. By the end of the year, we were named best mid-size firm in the region for financial transparency. I didn't just take the title. I built the system, open salary bands, no more guessing games, quarterly performance reviews with real metrics, internal audit channels that worked, standing whistleblower policy with anonymous escalation, no more buried red flags. I made damn sure nobody got passed over or forgotten under my watch. Not on my team, not on my time. Meanwhile, my old company started circling the drain. Garrett was ousted 6 months after the audit. Not fired. Stepped down, according to the press release, but everyone knew. Marissa quit before the acquisition closed. Left behind a 5-line email and a desk full of files no one wanted to open. Ray, or Daniel, whatever, still works there. No power, no title, just answers tickets now. Mostly access requests and expense report rejections. From the corner cube by the printer. Sometimes, when I'm alone in my office after hours, I think about how it could have been different if they'd just treated me right from the start. seen what I was worth before I forced them to look. But then I glance around, at the firm I helped build, at the people thriving because I made sure they weren't invisible. And I know, this is where I was meant to be. Knowing your worth isn't arrogance, it's clarity. And the second you stop begging for recognition, that's when the power flips. If you've ever been passed over, ignored, or used, don't wait for someone to hand you justice. Calculate your value. Present the invoice. Walk out if they don't pay. That's not revenge. That's business.